If you're over 60 and you drive in the United Kingdom, you need to stop what you're doing and listen very carefully. A brand new DVLA rule starts tomorrow, and it's already catching thousands of drivers completely off guard. This isn't a suggestion, it isn't a guideline, it is now a legal requirement. If you drive without this one thing, even if you've held a clean license for 40 years, you could be pulled over, hit with a fine of up to £1,000, handed 6 penalty points, and suddenly find your car insurance completely worthless. The worst part, most drivers over 60 still have absolutely no idea this is happening and that silence could cost them everything. Let me paint a picture for you. It's a normal Wednesday morning. You're driving to the supermarket, maybe to a hospital appointment, or you're just popping out to see your grandchildren. The roads are quiet. You've driven them 1,000 times. Then you notice blue lights in your rearview mirror. Your heart starts pounding, but you're not worried. You've done nothing wrong. The officer approaches your window, asks for your license, and then asks for something you've never been asked for before. A new DVLA medical confirmation code. You look at him blankly. You don't have it. You didn't even know it existed. And in that moment, your entire world tilts, because without that code, the law now says you're driving without a valid license. That single missing piece of paper or that missing digital passcode could trigger a chain of events that leaves you with a criminal record, a destroyed no-claims bonus, and a bill that rips through your pension savings. So what exactly is this new rule that begins tomorrow? Let's get straight into the detail, because every single hour that passes brings you closer to a potential disaster. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency has, after months of consultation, introduced something called the Annual Driver Medical Self-Declaration for drivers aged 60 and over. This is completely separate from the over 70 license renewal that many people are familiar with. The new rule states that from tomorrow, any person who holds a valid British driving license, whether it's a full car, motorcycle, or even a provisional entitlement, and who is aged 60 or above, must have completed an official DVLA health self-assessment and must be able to produce the resulting unique confirmation code whenever they are behind the wheel. If you cannot produce that code when asked by a police officer, you are technically driving otherwise than in accordance with a license. That offense carries a fine of up to £1,000, between 3 and 6 penalty points, and in some cases, immediate disqualification. And trust me, this is where things get even more frightening. Most people think, well, I'll just take the fine and move on. But you need to understand the hidden landmine that comes with this. Driving without a valid license doesn't just trigger a penalty from the courts. It instantly voids your motor insurance policy. Read that again. The moment you are found to be driving without a valid license because you failed to carry this new confirmation, your insurer can legally deny any claim. Imagine you're involved in an accident, even one that isn't your fault. The other driver's insurer comes after you for the full cost of repairs, personal injury compensation, higher car fees, legal charges, and suddenly you are facing a bill that can easily exceed £50,000 or £60,000. For a retiree living on a fixed income, that kind of financial shock doesn't just cause sleepless nights, it can lead to repossession, bankruptcy, and the complete collapse of everything you've worked your entire life to build. But let's step back for a moment, because you might be asking why the DVLA has brought this rule in now and what happens behind the scenes if you ignore it. The official reasoning from the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency and the Department for Transport focuses on medical fitness. Statistics show that drivers over 60 are disproportionately represented in collisions where a medical episode was a primary factor. The government has been under increasing pressure from road safety groups to tighten the monitoring of older drivers without introducing compulsory driving retests that would be politically toxic. This new medical self-declaration is presented as a lighter touch solution, but make no mistake, it carries enormous legal weight. Once you complete the declaration online, or via the paper-based alternative, the system generates an 8-character code that is linked directly to your driving record and the police national computer. From tomorrow, ANPR cameras and roadside checks will have the capability to flag whether your license record has an active, up-to-date declaration. If it doesn't, you are visible to law enforcement at a level that simply did not exist last week. Now I need you to pay very close attention to this next part because it explains who exactly is caught by this new rule, and the list is far broader than you might expect. The rule applies to every driver who reaches their 60th birthday before tomorrow. Even if you renewed your license at 70 only a few months ago and think you're safe, you are not exempt. The annual medical self-declaration is a separate legal requirement that sits on top of the existing renewal cycle. If you turned 60 yesterday or 16 years ago, you are included. If you only drive once a week to the local church, you are included. If you are a named driver on your spouse's insurance, you are included. If you hold a driving license, but you haven't been behind the wheel for months and you think maybe you won't bother, you are still legally required to complete the declaration if there is any chance at all you might drive. The DVLA has made it painfully clear that there is no grace period. The rule becomes enforceable at 1 minute past midnight tonight, and enforcement is not going to be soft. But here is where anxiety really starts to build, and I want you to stay with me because the solution is coming, but you must understand the consequences of delay first. Let's say you decide to ignore this video. You tell yourself it's probably just internet scaremongering. You get into your car tomorrow morning, you haven't done the declaration, and you are stopped at a routine roadside check. You might think you can talk your way out of it. You can't. The police now have a direct digital link to DVLA status codes. The officer taps your registration into their handheld device, and within seconds, they can see a red marker indicating that you have not completed the mandatory health self-declaration. At that point, the officer has zero discretion. They are duty-bound to report you for the offense. You'll be handed a fixed penalty notice or a summons, and you will likely be told you cannot continue your journey. Your car could be seized, leaving you stranded many miles from home with no way back except an expensive taxi that you cannot afford. For many older drivers, that scenario isn't just inconvenient, it's physically dangerous and emotionally shattering. And what about that moment when you call your insurance company to ask a simple question, and they tell you that because you drove without a valid license, your policy is null and void, effective from the moment you turned the key? This isn't a theoretical risk. I've seen real cases in the county courts where insurers have successfully argued that policyholders failed to comply with licensing conditions and therefore the insurer had no liability. The financial consequences can be absolutely catastrophic. Think about third-party injury claims that can run into hundreds of thousands of pounds. Think about the legal fees, the bailiff visits, the frozen bank accounts. That is the kind of nightmare that begins with a simple failure to click a few buttons on a government website. And yet, even as I describe this, millions of drivers over 60 are going about their evening with absolutely no idea that the ground is shifting beneath them. But there's another layer to this that the DVLA has not exactly shouted from the rooftops, and it's something that could affect you even if you believe you are perfectly healthy. When you complete the annual medical self-declaration, the system asks a series of questions about specific health conditions. It asks about heart problems, diabetes, epilepsy, strokes, sleep apnea, vision issues, and a number of other conditions that could affect fitness to drive. If you honestly declare a condition, the DVLA may immediately trigger a deeper medical investigation. In some cases, your license can be temporarily suspended while they seek further information from your GP or consultant. Now, I can see you tensing up. You might be thinking, if I have a slight heart murmur and I declare it, am I going to lose my license overnight? This is exactly the fear that stops people from engaging with the system, but I need to be brutally honest with you. Failing to declare a condition or deliberately not completing the declaration because you're scared of the outcome is far more dangerous. If you drive without the confirmation code and have an accident, and it later emerges that you had a known medical condition you failed to disclose, you could be prosecuted for making a false declaration, and that can lead to a custodial sentence. The legal term is causing serious injury by dangerous driving or even death by dangerous driving if an incident occurs, and prosecutors are increasingly looking at medical non-disclosure as an aggravating factor. So the safest path, the only path, is to complete the declaration honestly and then work through whatever comes next with the support of your GP. But I realize I've just thrown a lot of heavy information at you, and your heart is probably racing right now. Let's bring in some relief, because the process to comply with this new DVLA rule is actually straightforward, and you can complete it in the next 15 minutes if you stay with me. I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to do step by step, and I'm also going to give you a critical piece of advice that most people miss, something that could prevent you from being stopped even if you've done everything else right. The first step is to go to the official government website. You need to type exactly this into your browser address bar, gov.uk/driver medical declaration. If you're not confident online, get a family member or a trusted neighbor to sit with you. Do not go through third-party websites that charge a fee. The process is completely free. Never pay anyone to do this for you. The official DVLA page will ask for your driving license number, your national insurance number, and your postcode so it can pull up your record. Once you're in, the system presents the health declaration form. It asks you to confirm that you meet the minimum eyesight standard, which means you can read a car number plate from 20 meters away with glasses or contact lenses if you need them. It asks you to list any notifiable medical conditions. You must be truthful. If you're not certain whether something needs to be declared, there is a helpful drop-down guide on the page. You will then be asked to confirm that you understand your legal duty to report any new conditions that develop in the future. Finally, you submit the form, and within seconds, you receive an 8-character confirmation code on the screen. That code is also sent to the email address or mobile phone number you provide. Now here comes the detail that trips so many people up. You must be able to produce that confirmation code whenever you are driving. The DVLA does not send you a plastic card. There is no new paper counterpart arriving in the post. You are responsible for keeping that code with you. The safest way is to write it down on a piece of paper and place it inside your wallet next to your driving license photo card. Alternatively, take a screenshot and save it somewhere you can quickly access even without mobile signal. I personally recommend both. Print it out and keep a copy in your glove box as well. If you are stopped and you have to fumble through your phone for 10 minutes, that is going to create a miserable interaction. Keep it immediate. Keep it visible. This tiny action could be the shield that protects you from a 1,000-pound fine and all the misery that follows. Now I can hear some of you saying, "But I don't use the internet." I completely understand, and you are not being left out. The DVLA has set up a dedicated telephone line for people who cannot complete the declaration online. The number will be displayed in the pinned comment below this video, but let me give it to you here as well. The medical declarations team can be reached by calling 0300-790-6806. When you call, have your driving license ready and be prepared for a series of verbal questions similar to the online form. They will then post a confirmation code to your registered address. But here's the critical point. The postal confirmation may take 5 to 7 working days to arrive, and you cannot legally drive from tomorrow onwards until you have that physical code in your possession. If you rely on post, you are essentially immobilized for at least a week unless you have already completed the declaration. This is why I am urging you to act literally right now, while you still have a few hours before the clock strikes midnight. Do not let the lack of internet become the reason your independence is snatched away. Now let's talk about another scenario that keeps me awake at night, and I want you to imagine it vividly because it's the sort of thing that happens to real people every day. You're a widow living alone in a rural village. You depend on your Vauxhall Corsa to get to the pharmacy, the doctor, and the weekly shop. You hear something about a new DVLA rule, but you don't catch the full detail. A week later, you're driving down a winding A road when a deer runs out. You swerve and clip a dry stone wall. No one is hurt, but your car is badly damaged. You call your insurer, make a claim, and they ask a routine question about your license status. It flags that your medical declaration is missing. The insurer withdraws cover, the claim is denied, and you are left with a twisted pile of metal in your driveway and a repair bill you could never afford. That scenario is entirely avoidable, and it breaks my heart that so many people are going to find themselves there simply because they were not told in time. And this brings me to something deeply unsettling that you may not have considered. Even if you are not stopped by the police and you do not have an accident, your insurance policy could still be affected retroactively. Many insurers are now including clauses that require policyholders to confirm compliance with all DVLA medical declaration requirements at each renewal. If you renew your policy next month and you tick the box saying you have completed the new declaration when you haven't, that is insurance fraud. If a claim ever arises, the insurer can void the policy from inception, meaning you were effectively uninsured for that entire period. The consequences of that go far beyond fines. You could be added to the insurance fraud register, making it nearly impossible to get affordable cover ever again. The shadow this casts over your life is long and dark, and yet it all traces back to one small action that takes less time than making a cup of tea. But let's pause for a moment and address the voice in your head that might be saying, "This can't be right. I haven't seen this on the news. The government would have sent a letter." I understand that skepticism, and I respect it. The DVLA has stated that letters were dispatched, but the reality is that millions of those letters were delayed, lost, or sent to outdated addresses. If you moved house and forgot to update your driving license address, you would not have received anything. And under the law, it is your responsibility to keep your address current. The fact that you didn't receive a letter does not protect you from prosecution. Ignorance of the law is never a defense in court. You can feel frustrated, you can feel angry, but that anger will not stop the handcuffs, it will not stop the fine, and it will not stop your insurance from collapsing. The only thing that protects you now is immediate action. But what if you have a disability or a medical condition you are genuinely worried about disclosing? This is a delicate moment, and I don't want you to panic. Most medical conditions, when properly managed and reported, do not lead to a revocation. The DVLA's guidance makes it clear that conditions like controlled diabetes, stable angina, or well-managed epilepsy with a long seizure-free period often result in a restricted license being issued, not a total ban. Burying your head in the sand is the worst possible strategy. If you declare, you might face a temporary administrative process, but you will be legally protected. If you hide, you are spinning a roulette wheel every time you turn the ignition, hoping that you won't be the unlucky one. That kind of anxiety grinds you down, and it destroys the peaceful retirement you deserve. Now, I want to shift the focus slightly because there's a hidden detail that the DVLA guidance barely mentions, and it could catch you out even if you've carefully completed your declaration. The code you receive is only valid for 1 year from the date of issue. You must renew this declaration annually. Let me say that again. Every single year, you need to redo this process. There isn't an automatic reminder. The DVLA website mentions that reminders may be sent, but I wouldn't bet my driving license on that. Set a recurring alarm on your phone for 11 months from now. Tell your son, your daughter, your carer. Make this as automatic as renewing your car tax. The last thing you want is to be safe for a year and then find yourself back in the danger zone simply because the calendar turned. And here's another twist. When you complete the medical declaration, the system might flag a condition that requires you to contact your GP for a report. If that happens, the DVLA will write to your doctor. That process can take several weeks. During those weeks, you are permitted to drive under what is called Section 88 of the Road Traffic Act, provided your doctor has not advised you to stop. But this protection only applies if you have submitted your declaration and are actively engaging with the process. If you haven't even started, Section 88 cannot protect you. Understanding this subtle legal safety net is crucial because it could save your mobility while the medical investigation unfolds. Without it, you're left in a legal vacuum, unable to drive, watching your independence dissolve. Now let's go deeper into the emotional side, because driving isn't just about getting from one place to another. For many people over 60, especially those living alone, the car represents freedom. It's the ability to visit a partner's grave, to hold your grandchild's hand at a school play, to attend a friend's funeral. Losing that ability is a grief in itself. The thought that a bureaucratic oversight could strip you of that so suddenly and so permanently is enough to make anyone feel sick. But please, don't let that fear freeze you. Channel it into the simple act of completing this declaration. By doing it tonight, you are not just obeying the law. You are protecting your lifeline. You are protecting your dignity. You are drawing a line in the sand and saying, I will not let a change in administration steal what matters most to me. Now, I'm about to give you a piece of advice that could save someone you love from a devastating mistake, but only if you share it. Many of you watching are not over 60 yourself, but you have a parent, a grandparent, an elderly neighbor who relies on driving. They may not be on YouTube. They may not have heard a single word of this warning. It falls on you to pick up the phone right now and say, have you done the new DVLA medical declaration? It's law from tomorrow, and if you drive without it, you could be fined heavily and lose your insurance. That single phone call might feel awkward, but it could prevent a world of pain. I've seen sons and daughters weep in courtrooms because they didn't speak up in time. Don't let that be you. Send them the link to this video, and if they can't watch it, sit with them and do the declaration together. The cost of ignoring this is simply too high. But there's something else you need to be ready for, and that's the moment you are actually stopped by an officer and you produce the code. Don't assume that presenting the code immediately closes the matter. The police might still verify it on their system, and there can be a delay. Stay calm. Keep your hands visible. Speak respectfully. Tell the officer, I've completed the DVLA medical declaration. Here is my confirmation code, and my GP is aware of my status. This small phrase shows you are engaged and responsible. It can change the tone of the entire interaction and may even prevent a formal report. Politeness combined with evidence is your strongest defense in that stressful moment. Let me now address the question that many of you are silently thinking. Is this new rule actually fair? Is this another example of age discrimination wrapped up in safety language? I hear you. Campaign groups have raised exactly that concern, and there are ongoing debates in Parliament. But that debate doesn't change the law that comes into force tomorrow. You can be angry about the rule and still comply with it. In fact, complying gives you the moral authority to criticize the system without the stain of illegality. Do not make yourself a martyr for a cause that won't pay your court fines. And I want to end this part of our discussion with a powerful statistic. The DVLA estimates that over 3 million drivers over 60 will be required to complete this declaration in the first week. Their servers are prepared but expecting that level of traffic, yet there's always a chance the website could slow down or crash as the deadline bites. If you're watching this and the website is glitching, don't give up. Keep refreshing. If it still doesn't work, take a screenshot of the error message, note the time, and immediately call the helpline. This creates a record that you attempted to comply before the deadline, and that record could be pivotal if you ever face legal action. In law, demonstrating genuine intent to follow the rules can sometimes mitigate penalties. It is not a golden ticket, but it is a layer of protection you should not ignore. Now let's summarize the most immediate steps, because I want you to finish watching this, put down your device, and take action within the next 60 seconds. 1. Locate your driving license. 2. Go to gov.uk/driver medical declaration. 3. Complete the self-declaration honestly and carefully. 4. Write down the confirmation code and place it with your license. 5. Inform your family and set a yearly reminder. 6. Share this information with every older driver you know. This is the minimum you must do to avoid waking up tomorrow as an outlaw on the roads. But before I let you go, I have to touch on something even more disturbing that lurks in the background of this new rule. There are opportunistic fraudsters who are already exploiting the confusion. People are receiving text messages pretending to be from the DVLA, asking them to click a link and pay a fee to get their over 60 medical card. These are scams. The DVLA will never text you asking for payment. The declaration is entirely free. Never give your bank details. If you receive such a message, forward it to 7726 to report it. Protect yourself and your community. And what about the long-term trajectory? This new rule is widely seen as the beginning of a broader tightening of older driver regulations. Already, discussions are underway about mandatory eyesight checks every 2 years for over 65s and possible cognitive screening. By complying now, you demonstrate that you are a responsible, capable driver who engages with the system. That could help shape a more balanced policy in the future instead of sweeping bans that punish everyone. Your compliance today is not just a legal checkbox, it's a statement. As we move toward the final moments of this video, I want to leave you with a sense of urgent empowerment. Fear without action is paralyzing, but action turns fear into safety. You now know exactly what the DVLA requires. You know the penalties for ignoring it. You know how to protect your finances and your freedom. And you know how quickly you can resolve this. The only thing standing between you and complete peace of mind is a few minutes on a government website. Please do not let procrastination win. Tomorrow morning, when you back out of your driveway, I want you to feel calm, knowing that you are fully compliant, fully insured, and fully in control. This information will remain relevant, but the window of no consequence action closes at midnight. After that, every journey without the confirmation code is a gamble with stakes you cannot afford. If this video has helped you, please like it so the algorithm shows it to more people who desperately need to see it. Subscribe and turn on notifications because I'll be reporting on every single update the moment official guidance shifts. Now I'm going to pin that phone number and the exact website link in the comments. Go there, take action, and drive safely.